Welcome everyone to another episode of Startup Program Masters. I am Yanis from the Founderhood team, and today I am joined by Babita Devi. Babita, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
The pleasure is ours. So Babita is the managing director of bStrategic, which is a company that runs an accelerator program in the UK, which is called the Alignment Accelerator. She has more than 20 years of experience in the startup field, and she's also currently a mentor in other startup programs as well, if I'm not mistaken, right? So she's here to talk today with us about the Alignment Accelerator. But before we go into the program, Babita, would you like to tell us a few things about yourself, your career, and how did you end up here?
Yes, absolutely. So thank you. So yes, I started my career in corporate many, many years ago. And I'm going to give away my age now because actually very early on, I was involved in setting up the very first computer superstore in the UK before it got bought out by PC World and then later Currys. So that was before computers were sold through mainstream stores like we're used to today. I worked in tech for a long time, everything from, like I said, the retail concept stores all the way through to ERP solutions in supply chain management software. So after being in corporate for several years, I decided to set up my own marketing consultancy when I moved to Australia in 2004. And I'm a huge believer that marketing is the heartbeat of every single business. So what that meant was that I always ended up working with the senior management team in businesses. And so I kind of fell into coaching and mentoring a little bit by accident. From there, I then started mentoring and working with medium-sized companies at that stage. And then lived in Australia for a few years, moved back to the UK and just carried on with the mentoring and coaching work. But alongside my marketing company, decided to set up my second business, and that was the tech company. And I'll talk about that a little bit today as well. But in essence, I founded two companies. Today, I do a lot of coaching and mentoring. I work with organisations like the Cambridge University Business School, Judge Business School, where we run Accelerator program. I'm also a mentor for Barclays Eagle Labs across their whole network of centres in the UK. And I am a mentor for Raising Starts, who are based in Belgrade. Outside of that, I do a lot of one-to-one work, and I also sit on the board of some early stage companies as well. And I sit on a VC fund as well.
Thank you. So big background that started from the corporate world and then founding your own businesses, and now you're here in multiple businesses, startups, and I can say a leader in the innovation ecosystem there in the UK. So can you tell us about the Alignment Accelerator? What do you do there, and how did it start inside the bStrategic?
Yes. Yes. So the second company I set up is really the reason, where the Alignment Accelerator started, first of all, because that company, it was a tech business, and it was back in 2015. And in fact, I moved around a lot, cities and continents. And my poor daughter, by the time she went to university, she'd been to 6 different schools. And what happened was, every time I moved schools, I was always thinking there must be a much better way to communicate with the other parents, rather than in those days trying to find out who the class rep is, or who's got the latest Excel spreadsheet with all the parents' details on there, so that I could help settle her into school. And this was a time when Facebook was still in its infancy and WhatsApp wasn't really around much then. And so I set about developing WhatsApp for parents without realizing that's what I was doing at the time. And there was a lot that I did in terms of setting up that company. So I learned about coding, I learned about managing developers, I learned how to raise investment, lots of sleepless nights. So, kind of really went on that entrepreneurial journey in its full glory, let's say that. That business should have been hugely successful, and it wasn't. And the reason it wasn't is because it was a business that was completely out of alignment with who I am at my core. So I set about working out, why is it that here's an idea that should have worked and why didn't it work? And so in uncovering and unpacking all of that is when I started to realize that there needs to be, your business can only grow to the level that you as a founder grow. And that really is where Alignment Accelerator started, which is, you will, the accelerator is very much based on this concept of parallel growth, which is, as a founder, you are not the business. The business is an entity, and you are looking for something from the business, and it also is looking for something from you. And a founder is really only ever looking for one thing from their business, and that's growth. And the day that they stop growing as an individual is the day that they get bored and they want to go and do something else. And quite often we call it shiny new object syndrome. But the business also needs something from the founder. And so that whole concept of parallel growth is fundamental to the Alignment Accelerator. And it was that was my own personal experience. But I work with, just to give you an idea of the sheer volume of companies I work with. A couple of years ago, the University of Suffolk asked me to give a presentation for International Women's Day. And it was the first time I sat down and went through my diary and thought, let me just count how many companies I worked with in a 12-month period, just so that I had a data point for the presentation. And in just 12 months, it was 109 companies. And so I spent that summer looking at, I get a lot of feedback that the sessions are always super helpful for the founders. But what I wanted to do was to work out, why is it that some founders move faster than others when it comes to accelerating the growth? And that's when I started to work out this whole relationship between personal development and business growth and how closely linked it is. And so the Alignment Accelerator is really a program that helps business owners to grow both themselves and their business in parallel.
Amazing. So from your own experience, that you saw that your business did not grow because you were not aligned with that business, you came up with this idea, which is really interesting for me. And this is the first time I hear, this thought process of, your business needs to align with the founder. It makes total sense to me. And now I'm really more curious. And I want to ask, I guess, you're in the UK, it's a big innovation ecosystem, right? Also, I guess there are more founders, more startups, but at the same time, more programs. It's a bit more competitive, I assume. Now, also considering the fact that you're looking for startups where the founders align with their ideas. Actually, let me rephrase the question. Are you looking for that from the beginning, or during the program, you make sure that the founders, align with their ideas and, pivot to an idea that expresses themselves? I don't know. I am curious of how that works, how you make sure that they align from the beginning or during the process.
So the accelerator is based on a 7-step process, and naturally, with a background in strategic marketing and business development, commercialization, there's a lot of elements of doing that whole product market fit and all of that stuff. So if you think about, you have the business and you have the individual. When it comes to, and I'll give you a real example of how that plays out. So one of the steps, for example, is all around understanding pricing strategies. So when it comes to growing your business, pricing strategies, there's 2 ways that you can handle that. You can do bottom up or you can do top down, and you can look at the different ways. And there's tools and techniques I teach people on how to ensure that you're not on a race to the bottom. How do you make sure that you charge the right price for your product or service based on the value that you deliver? That's the business side. The personal side of that same, so I'm saying external and internal. Internally, I need the founder to understand their relationship with money, because once they understand their relationship with money, it will help them to understand where the pricing strategy is coming from and how comfortable they are charging, for example, even something as simple as charging premium pricing. If you have a relationship with money which holds you back from doing that, you're never going to be comfortable charging premium pricing in your product or in your business. So that's where I started to look at, okay, how do we bring these different elements of what a founder needs to go, this journey that they're going through, even simple things like separating a founder from their business. What does that step look like? What does that mean for the business, and what does it mean for the individual? What does a heart-centered business look like? And again, I guess probably best illustrated through an example is I remember having a coaching session with an accountant about 12, 18 months ago now, and hugely successful, had built up a finance business. And he said, I'm just bored. I'm just bored doing what I'm doing, but had invested a lot of time, energy, and effort, not to mention education, to get to where he was at. And so we started to work through, what elements of what he was doing was keeping him stuck and all of that stuff. And then actually, what does a heart-centered business look like? And he was a very keen cyclist. So what we did was we actually started to reposition his business in the cycling space so that he could become an accountant for cyclists. And he loves doing that. So sometimes it's about bringing together something that you're very passionate about and understanding what your purpose is. But I always say to people, I call it the golden triangle, that if you have purpose and passion without profit, then it's just a hobby. So how do you make sure that you have all three elements of that working properly? So there's a lot of people come to work with me on different stages of their journey. Sometimes they are really clear on the work that they need to do on themselves, but they're stuck on how to grow the business. Or they know how to grow the business, but they themselves are getting in the way of that growth, and they know they're getting in the way of that growth. So it can be either of those, and it doesn't really matter what the starting point is. It's very easy to quickly unpack that and help move people forward, because one of the my work is all about helping volume of founders as opposed to founders becoming reliant on me for a long period of time. So I help people unpack things really quickly, and that's important for me, is that unpack quickly and get them to that next level as fast as I can.
So during the program, you are actually focusing uh, as well as in the business, but also in the founder themselves to really align with their strategy more, and it makes sense totally. So it's not something that happens from the beginning when you are accepting those founders. It's something that during the process, step by step, you help them reflect, I guess, and align themselves with the business, their pricing. Amazing.
Yes, yeah.
In the beginning, when you're accepting the startups, when you're trying to find startups for your program, for the accelerator, would you say, because I'm going back to my previous like introduction to a question, would you say because the UK ecosystem is bigger and maybe more competitive, is it harder, is it easier to find startups for your program?
The UK ecosystems, I mean, in Cambridge alone, you're only ever one or two steps removed from finding the person you need to speak to about something. It's a very close-knit community here. There's a group in London that started, I want to say 6 months ago, the startup events, and they they have had hundreds of founders enroll into their programs, and basically their format is you turn up, it's networking, and you can put your name in to do a 1-minute pitch in front of the whole audience, and that's it. And they've gone from strength to strength. So the startup space in the UK is significant. There's a lot of a huge amount of accelerators here. There's a lot of specialized accelerators for different sectors. And if I think about the Accelerate program at Judge at the University of Cambridge, that is a program that's been going for about 10 years, and we've had about 400 companies go through that program, and nearly close to 70% of those companies are still around today. So hugely successful. And the companies between them, they've raised over £600 million worth of investment as well. But Cambridge is, if you think about Cambridge as an ecosystem, we have a lot of deep tech, med tech, biotech, a lot of pharma, life science type companies here. The ecosystems across the UK are clustered. So we have to reflect the type of organizations that are being created in Cambridge, therefore is reflected through the accelerators that are being built around those if you like, the talent pool. So where are the companies, and there's accelerators to support that. But the UK, I mean, there's a huge amount of early stage ventures here, and I think actually post pandemic, that's I don't know the data, but if I was going to guess, I would say that's increased as well.
Mhm. And the Alignment Accelerator, as one program of such a big ecosystem that is over there, how do you try to exploit that ecosystem? What kind of collaborations have you formed already? And what kind of collaborations would you like to chase more in the future that you see potential,
Mm.
let's say?
Mm. So even though I'm a marketeer, I should be much better at marketing my program. But I've done, obviously, I do some marketing. That's one of those things. I spend so much of my time coaching and mentoring. It's a case of trying to do everything. But um, I'm a huge believer that if you get the right message out there, your people find you. And so there's an element of process involved and creating a machine, if you like. I always say to people, you need to create process in your business and have it set up like a machine so that you can build your brand in the right place, get in front of the right people who you can make a significant difference to, so that they actually want to work with you. And so that piece of work, it's something that takes a bit of time, because obviously in our line of work, it's as much about the individual as it is about the framework. So I have a 7-step process about parallel growth. I'm in the midst of writing a book at the moment, developing a digital program at the moment. So there's a lot I'm doing, but in the meantime, I'm also able to take those concepts and be working one-to-one through the various accelerators, external accelerators that I work with as well, to help to start to establish a way of being, so that founders are able to successfully start to grow their businesses really from the inside out, is what I'm talking about. So, but yeah, I think when it comes to the whole collaboration piece, I guess a large part of my brand is built on the back of the accelerators, the external accelerators that I work with, and also the coaching and mentoring that I'm doing through those other organizations as well. Does that answer the question?
I think so. I am curious about how exactly you collaborate with external accelerators, because I think it's something nice for programs to actually collaborate with each other and exchange, knowledge, resources. I don't know. How exactly do you approach, the collaboration between other programs? Mhm.
Yeah, so I think there's definitely people who invest in their personal development, and there are the people who we struggle to get over the line, who are stuck in procrastination, are generally like that across all areas of life. So somebody who is a lifelong learner is interested in almost like going from one thing to the next to the next. It starts to break down when what they think they're getting isn't the thing that's being delivered, and I've seen that happen a few times as well. But when the program is aligned really well to what they need, and it moves them from A to B, then they continue to want to say, they'll get to that point, see the profound impact it's had on them, and then want to do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. So finding strategic opportunities, if you like, where you can work together with other like-minded organizations that either become part of an early part of your journey, or or become part of the later stage of that personal development timeline, is a good way to look at it, because the market is huge. I don't believe in scarcity. I think there's a lot of people that need help, and I put a post on LinkedIn last week. I think I only worked 3 days, but I still worked with 13 different companies over 3 days. So people want help, and they want to get results faster than before as well. And I think that's a key driver for many people, is that they look for, there's so much noise in the marketplace, right? It's like, where do I go? Who do I go to? Who can help me with this thing? And it's making sure that you're able to communicate in a way that your audience knows what you offer quickly. And in some instances, and I teach this on my accelerator, is that how do you get to people before they know that they need what you've got? So there's a lot of demand for good accelerators, but at the same time, know that there are a lot of accelerators for people to choose from.
So if I get it right, depending on the stage where each founder is and on their needs, you collaborate with other programs, accelerators to cover those specific needs. And depending on the stage where they are, on how much they have evolved, their product and everything. So actually, when you see that you cannot fully cover the stage where each founder is, you collaborate, and this is like you send them somewhere else to cover to exploit someone else's experience and the resources. And I think this is beautiful actually, because I assume, or I have seen from my experience, that sometimes on smaller ecosystems there is a more competitive, let's say, energy. And I think you totally embracing the other program's strengths, and I guess them doing the same for you, and doing the best for the founders and not for the program. I really like that, and I really applaud that. Actually,
Yeah, I think
mhm.
yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head, and I think a large part of it is recognizing that it's like anything. People come to you with a certain objective in mind for a certain point in time. So if I take some of the companies that I'm working with at the moment, some of them, if a founder needs a co-founder, for example, then and they might be looking for investment, then that's a different type of accelerator. If they're looking to take what they have done and they want to work with investors specifically in the biotech space, that's a different type of accelerator. And even if I think about the Accelerate program at the University of Cambridge, there's 6 of us coaches on that program. So that's a very holistic program for very early stage founders. So it really depends. It's quite often it's about being able to take yourself out of your business, put yourself into the shoes of the people that you're helping, and look at what is it that they need. Because if they win, then you win, right? That's the whole thing. And that sometimes that might mean walking away from a client as well, that you might not be the right fit for a client, and that's totally fine. So finding the right people to work with who can benefit from the thing that you're doing, because every time you take on a client who's not aligned with the things that you're delivering, you're taking a space away from somebody that does need what you've got. So there's that process works both ways.
Mm-hmm. I see, and I agree very much. And I really like that you work like that over there with other programs, and doing the best for the founders. I will go into a more general question, since you are also start a mentor in other programs, but since you said now you have a lot of connection and collaboration with other programs, I guess you have seen how things work in different programs. I would want to ask you, in your experience, from what you have seen, what do you think are right now in 2024, like the 2, 3 main pain points that startup programs have right now?
I think some of it is um, just being able to, when you say the main pain points, do you mean from the accelerator's perspective?
Yes, from the accelerators, or even other startup programs, but we can focus on the accelerators right now, like, because you're mostly working with other accelerators.
Mm.
The pain points of.
Yeah, I guess part of it is being able to track businesses in the longer term. So people, companies come into the accelerator and then they leave. I mean, fortunately, we do a relatively good job of that at the university, so we can see what happens with some of those companies as they go on. But I think really just being one of the main ones would be just being able to connect people, because it's quite laborious, right? So if I think about Accelerate, for example, um, I think we've taken on, in the new cohort, we've taken on about 20 odd companies, but we have 3 times the amount of applications. And so the companies that don't make it, we want to be able to support those in some way as well, because all it takes is one idea and one company to do really well, and then they've managed to make a huge impact on the lives of people, employment in the region, a breakthrough technology. there's if I had the time, I would help everybody. So the big challenge is around resources really more than anything. But the thing I guess with founders is that they're persistent, right? If nothing else, so it's not a case of they don't just give up if they don't make it into an accelerator. They'll go and find another one to be part of. So it's and that's the right thing as well. Sometimes the Accelerate program at Cambridge University might not be the right program for them. So recognizing that, making sure that it's a win-win for both parties is a really big part of that. That's true for any accelerator, like I said before. There's no point in accepting somebody into your accelerator if you're not going to be able to help them. And if you can help them, that company, that individual becomes a salesperson for you, because then they go and rave about what they've learned and the change that they've gone through to other people as well. The opposite is also true, of course. So, if they've had a bad experience, if it's misaligned with what they thought they were getting, then that becomes bad PR. So, and that doesn't help anyone, right? So I think the resource issue for sure, I think, is a big part of it.
Mm-hmm. So resources in order to be able to help your founders and cover their expectations in a sense. I really like what you said, that there is no way to actually manage or somehow connect the rejected startups with other stakeholders. It would be lovely to be able to somehow do that, connect them with the right people when you cannot really accept them. And I think that is a need right now. I have not seen, an organized funnel to do that. And also another thing that you mentioned first, and we also think in founderhood that it's really important is, tracking in long term, your startups, managing your alumni startups and connecting them with the startups that you have right now, building an ecosystem, a community around your program really helps it grow, and enhances the collaboration inside it. And it's a way for you as a manager to also track in the long term and see if your program some years ago had an actual impact, right? So it's really important in every aspect. And giving that pass to myself, I would like to close the questions for today with one also general question that I like to finish every episode with. In your experience from the accelerator programs you have seen, what would you say is one factor that can make a startup program really be impactful? If you can name one.
If it was just one thing, I would say a highly engaged, strong mentor network. There's plenty of people out there that have done really well, that are more than willing to give back to early stage companies, which are typically the sort of businesses that go through accelerators. So I think that type of support is worth its weight in gold.
So really, let's say, efficient and structured mentoring system to, where mentors can actually help.
The network, access to that network more than anything, like a strong mentor network.
I have one small follow-up question. Do you think that it's better for a startup to have one mentor or have multiple ones that can share different experiences, different perspectives? Do you think that having multiple ones confuses the startups, or because mentors might have different opinions on some stuff? What you have seen working better?
So we have this challenge at the university because we have 6 coaches, and one venture, one company might see 6 different coaches on the same day and have 6 different opinions on the same day. What I always encourage ventures to do and get them to think about is nobody knows your business like you do. You'll get 100 different opinions. And if you don't get them from the mentors, you'll get them from friends and family and business partners, and everybody else has a say, right? So ultimately, what this journey, remember I said, a person's business is really a vehicle for their personal growth. This is really about understanding yourself and learning to listen to what you believe is your truth and what you believe can work for you as a founder, and in the business decisions that you're making, what's right for your company. Nobody knows your business like you do. And so I would say that as when people start to realize that, and when they start to trust themselves more, because of course the flip side of that also is that you get lots of different opinions, and it's great because our brain has a field day with that. We don't have to make decisions because I'm getting conflicting advice now and I don't need to decide on something. Which, by the way, is the job of the brain, right? To keep us doing the same old, right? Keep us stuck in that loop. So recognizing, and that's why somebody's business is a vehicle for their growth, because when you start to look at all the different opinions and even reading different things and being pulled in different directions, you still have to make a decision as a business owner. I always say to founders when they get nervous making a decision, when they've had conflicting advice, is make a decision if it feels like it's the right decision. And even if it's the wrong decision, it will get you to where you need to be faster than not deciding. So that would be my advice. But yes, I think a large part of that comes down to really being able to trust yourself and thinking, okay, what's the right thing for me and my business, and being able to make a decision on that, regardless of how many different points of view you're getting.
Mm-hmm. Of course, taking action is better than no action.
It's better than no action.
Yeah. And so you basically encourage the founders to filter all the inputs from all the different coaches because, as you said, they know their business first. And if I could add something from my perspective on things, I think it also depends on the style of the mentor. If it's more like coaching or mentoring, because there are different things and, specific guidance and inputs can confuse maybe founders, but really being there and asking the right questions to founders from different people that might be more effective or be more helpful to them. So it really depends, but it was really nice to hear your thoughts on this. And I think it's very nice that your founders go through different, coaches and they get, food for thought from everyone. I think this is beautiful that you do it that way. And closing with that, I think that was all my questions for today. Thank you for all your inputs and sharing your experience. It was actually really interesting for me to hear mostly your thought process behind the alignment part of the accelerator. It's super nice to hear that you focus on the individual and you help them become one with the business, because I think it's a key to success to have your work being expressed, expressing yourself, your work expressing yourself, meaning your business is something that really expresses you as a founder and it's something you believe in. So it was really nice hearing you, and thank you a lot for joining us today for the podcast.
Thank you.
So for the viewers, stay tuned for more episodes of Startup Program Masters with more insights from different startup programs and different types of startup programs. And see you on the next one. Thank you again, Babita, and thank you a lot for your time.